want like a little taste of this that kind of proves everything I've said so far, that it's awesome when we're polemical, that it makes us very, very uncomfortable naturally when people do get a little bit polemical, and that there is a need for polemics to fight the warfare of the mind in these days. I'm just going to read a section of Martin Luther, the eminently reasonable, fair, balanced, qualified, calm writer of the 1500s. You tell me by your reaction that you have not read much Luther. He was known for his enormous, outlandish insults towards the Pope, the sorts of things that he would call dog's vomit that he would be putting out onto paper. You just need to go and read it. He had bowel issues, and all I'll say is that his bowel issues gave him plenty of, let's say, imageries and analogies to use in his writings. He's very comedic to read. But there was a great towering intellect of the Catholic Church back in the 1500s called Erasmus. And he had put out this enormous tome, this huge book arguing and debating for the belief of the freedom of the will is what it was called. It was basically against the Reformed Lutheran doctrine of depravity, where he was saying that the Catholic Church's view of how dead we are in sin is the true view. He was arguing that we still have freedom of the will. We still have the ability to make our own works and efforts before God acceptable. And so Martin Luther waited, which was very out of character for him. He waited a few months before he responded to that. And he opens up in his preface and he says, Erasmus, I thank you for being patient for my this new thing with Luther. He was slow to speak. He says, but I have not been quiet because I've been so knocked back by your argumentation. I've simply been waiting for you to produce something better. I assume that an intellect of your size has something worth debating, but as I flick through your book, I just don't find it here. In the preface, he says this, he says this, your book, in my estimation, is so mean and vile, and I greatly feel for you for having defiled your most beautiful and ingenious language with such vile trash. And I feel an indignation against the matter also, the content that he's written. I feel an indignation against that content, that such unworthy stuff should be borne about in ornaments of eloquence so rare. In other words, you have a way of putting things. Your mastery of the language is so exquisite and rare, he says, that this kind of content coming out of your pen is as if rubbish or dung should be carried in vessels of gold and silver. I love Luther. I hope you can tell I love Luther. You should just read some more of Luther. That kind of, now let's have it said, Luther is known for being particularly contentious. So don't all try and go from nice neighborhood granny on one side and then tomorrow deal out the Luther cards. We need to be sanctified each in our own way, but I love the way that Luther would go at it.